Hi there, this is a 2000 points battle I played the other day, and before the game we agreed that on a 4+ we'd switch armies. We did switch armies, and this lends quite an interesting twist to the game, I feel. I'll just go over what you can see here. At the top left there's the Warriors of Chaos with the Sorcerer Lord level 4 using Slaanesh on a Manticore. In front of him the Spawn, then there's Skull Crushers, 3 of them. Behind them Mark of Nurgle Marauders with BSB, Chaos War Shrine, 20 Tzeentch Warriors and 5 Tzeentch Knights. At the bottom, Dark Elves, we've got the Charybdis, next to them there's a big block of Spearmen, a Hydra with Fiery Breath, 28 Executioners with BSB, Supreme Sorceress using Dark Magic, 10 Crossbowmen next to the building, in front of it are 6 Cold War Knights, and finally there's Warlocks, which are actually Glade Rider models. Dark Elves won first turn and vanguarded and moved the Warlocks up into the position you can see there. The Cold War Knights failed their stupidity test and moved a few inches forwards, and everyone else stayed pretty still. I don't think there was much movement at all on their side. Magic was ineffectual. The Warlocks tried to 6 dice the Doom Bolt at the Knights, but they didn't roll enough to cast a spell. Shooting, I think the crossbowmen are out of range there, so nothing else really happens this turn. Warriors of Chaos turn 1, everyone moves up as far as they can, apart from the Sorcerer Lord who flies across the lines and lands just 12 inches from the Warlocks. In the magic phase I get very lucky and get off the spell, I can't remember what it's called, but it does d6 hits against a unit, strength 4 hits, and because he's got Mark of Slaanesh, the Warlocks don't get a save against him. Roll of 6 and I kill them all in one go. So that's one major threat which I was quite worried about, and they're just gone on the first turn. Dark Elves turn 2, and both the big monsters make a charge into the Skull Crushers. I've got no idea which way this fight's going to go. I think the Skull Crushers can probably handle them, but at the same time, if they can't kill the Charybdis, it has got strength 7, so that is quite worrying, even against 1+ armour. I don't really think there's too much other movement. The Cold War Knights move up, and Magic Phase is pretty uneventful. I think he just rolls just a 3 and a 1 or something and doesn't get any spells off. Combat's absolutely appalling. Skull Crushers, even though they go first with most of their strength 5 attacks, I'm just fluffing all the wound rolls, because you've got to remember they are up against toughness 5. Even though these monsters don't have great armour, I still need a 4+ to wound them, and just with a bit of bad luck, only do 1 wound to the Hydra, 1 to the Charybdis I think, and lose a whole Skull Crusher in return, although I do stick, so those Warriors are going into the flank of the Hydra next turn. Warriors of Chaos turn 2, I get off 2 charges here. Obviously the Warriors go into the flank of the Hydra, but also at the top you can see the Cold War Knights got caught out of position. I think my opponent just didn't take into account or just forgot about the long charge range of the Manticore Lord, or Manticore Sorcerer Lord, so hopefully I can destroy that unit too with the flank charge. If he'd fled he probably would have gone off the board, so he stuck. The Knights, I actually back them up a bit, I think. I don't want to be caught out by the Executioners. Here's a shot of the Sorcerer Lord in the flank of the Cold War Knights. In the magic phase I get off Hysterical Frenzy onto the Chaos Warriors, giving them an extra 5 attacks in their front rank. They take d6 strength 3 hits but don't lose anyone, although I did forget to mention that the crossbowmen killed 1 Chaos Warrior in the previous turn. I also get off Acquiescence onto the Executioners in the middle, which means they now have Always Strikes Last and random movement d6 inches, so in the unlikely event that I don't break the monsters or run them down, they can't charge my Chaos Warriors in the flank. Here's what it looks like after combat. The Chaos Sorcerer Lord challenges the Cold War Knight champion, kills him and does enough combat res to break the unit and run them down. In the middle, the Chaos Warriors kill the Hydra outright. They overran into the Charybdis. Charybdis kills another Skull Crusher, but loses combat, runs. Unfortunately, it actually gets away. It's only suffered 2 wounds, and I'm not very happy about how it's ended up here. The Chaos Warriors in the centre, despite having cast Acquiescence on the Executioners, can now expect to be charged by them anyway, The Skull Crusher's not so bad. He is in the front of the spearmen, and because of the position of the Charybdis, he can't be charged by them. You can see at the bottom, in the middle of the marsh, the spawn has just been creeping round. Not really sure where it's going, but it's just heading vaguely towards the spearmen. Dark Elves turn 3, and the Executioners do of course use their random movement to bring them into contact with the Chaos Warriors. The Charybdis rallies, and the spearmen manoeuvre so that they can charge the Skull Crusher in the flank next turn, if it's still alive. There's not a lot else to comment on before the combat happens. The crossbowmen don't manage to kill any of the knights, and the magic phase is typically uneventful for my opponent, who's had some pretty bad luck overall, both in terms of rolling low for power dice and just bad rolls to cast as well. And here's what it looks like after combat. The Executioners beat the Chaos Warriors, break them and run them down, and end up in this position in front of the large portion of the Chaos Army. We even played it so that the Chaos Warriors were frenzied from the spell, but also got their parry save, because we just forgot that they can't parry. But even with all that, the strength 6 from the Executioners, plus the Master being in that unit, contributing his strength 5 attacks, tipped it in the Dark Elves' favour. Warriors of Chaos turn 3. Everyone piles into the Executioners, with the Knights in their flank, War Shrine in the front, and the Marauders and BSB in their front. The Sorcerer Lord flies back over to try and lend some magical support to them. What's good about Lord of Slaanesh is a lot of the spells are hexes, so he'll be able to cast them even though the Executioners are in combat. Spawn tries to get into their other flank but doesn't make it, and the Skull Crusher on the far right there charges the Charybdis in a desperate attempt to bring it down. In the magic phase, the Sorcerer Lord manages to cast Cacophonic Choir on the Executioners, which kills 3 of them, but most importantly gives them Always Strikes Last, meaning that instead of striking at initiative 5, they now strike after all my warriors, which is huge, and leads to the devastation which you can see before you. The Exalted Hero goes first and kills 8 with his breath weapon alone, kills a couple more with his attacks. The Knights and the War Shrine all pile in, and most of the Executioners die. The Master's still alive, so he has a crown of command, and they stick. The combat between the Skull Crusher champion and the Charybdis is a stalemate. The champion takes a wound and inflicts none on the Hydra, so it's a draw. Dark Elves turn 4. The Spearmen charge the Skull Crusher in the flank. In the magic phase, the Supreme Sorceress 6 dices Doom Bolt against the Sorcerer Lord on Manticore. Rolls 13 strength 5 hits. I was thinking that the Manticore's probably going to die, and the Sorcerer Lord, not too worried about him, he's got a 1+ save and a 4+ ward. So when it came to roll to randomise the hits, on a 5+, the Sorcerer Lord is hit. 1 to 4, it's the Manticore, and here's what the roll looked like. The Sorcerer takes 10 hits, and the Manticore only takes 3. And with some bad rolling, he actually suffers 2 wounds, and the Manticore takes 2 as well, I think. So at least still alive, you know, not so bad. Hopefully he'll at least survive this turn, right? The 10 crossbowmen then shoot at him, sneak 1 wound through, roll a 1 on his arm save, and fail his ward, and he dies, while the Manticore lives. So I was not expecting that. Still haven't lost the points for him yet, but the Manticore automatically gets some kind of blind rage, and next turn we'll have to try and charge the nearest enemy unit, so depending on who it charges, not holding out too much hope for it living. In the Executioner's combat, the Exalted Hero kills the Master in a challenge and gets +1 toughness on the Eye of the Gods table. The rest of the Executioners are killed to a man, and everyone, I think, just shuffles round, readying the next assault on the Dark Elves. Chaos turn 4. I should have mentioned that the Skull Crusher obviously died last turn. The Charybdis killed him, and the Spearmen reformed, as well as the Charybdis, so that both could receive these charges. The Knights go into the Charybdis. The Manticore turns out that he's actually just about closest to the Spearmen and makes a charge on them, and the Spawn also gets into the front of the Spearmen. the War Shrine and the Marauders just move up a bit to try and make sure that everyone's in range of the BSB. In combat, the Manticore and Spawn managed to kill 10 spearmen between them, so that's pretty good. But the Manticore does take a wound, so I think it's down to its last wound now. Against the Charybdis, not so good. Just cannot wound these toughness 5 monsters with my strength 5 troops. Just failing so many wound rolls. I think the Knights still win, they cause a wound and the charge and banner, but the Charybdis kills 2 of them in return. Dark Elves turn 5, very fast turn, nothing to mention really in shooting or magic. Continued, just bad luck combined with just a lack of decent or useful targets for her spells at the moment, and I don't think Word of Pain worked. I think that Word of Pain was dispelled on the Knights. In combat, the Manticore dies, the Spearmen kill the Manticore, Spawn takes out a few Spearmen, so that unit is dwindling. The Knights take the Charybdis down to its final wound, but in return it kills all 3 of them. Chaos turn 5, the War Shrine charges the Charybdis. It's a Tzeentch War Shrine, so it's got a 3+ ward. Fairly confident that that can take on the Charybdis. And the Nurgle Marauders and BSB help out the Spawn and charge the Spearmen. And here's what it looks like after combat. The War Shrine kills the Charybdis fairly easily, although it takes a wound. The Spearmen need 5+ rerollable to hit the Marauders and just roll abysmally. I think they hardly do anything. It looks like they've killed 1 Marauder possibly. Or they might not even have done that. I think the Marauders lost someone earlier. They lose by just enough, they're not steadfast, and they flee. The Marauders run into the Sorceress. Dark Elves turn 6. The Exalted Hero obviously destroys the Sorceress, and the Crossbowmen do nothing to the War Shrine. The Spear Elves unfortunately also flee off the board. Chaos turn 6. Can't do anything. Can't get the Crossbowmen with anyone. So that's the end of the game. And at the end, Warriors scored 2,025 victory points. Dark Elves 1,529. So victory for Chaos. Should have reformed the War Shrine actually to face the Crossbowmen and charge them this turn. Could have wiped the board of all the Dark Elves, but oh well.